Hello everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very well. I'm here in the studio with Charlie and Scott. Of course, as always, someone's running late. Big up to Ziad, who'll be here very shortly. This is an end of season, quarter, a third of the season review.
Yeah, about that.
About that. How many games have we played?
11, mate.
11 league
Prem,
games and then, whatever in the Conference League.
So the idea behind this is, what do we think about Chelsea so far? What have we actually learned so far? There's so many things to talk about. Let's just start with the clear and obvious. Enzo Maresca coming in, new appointment from Leicester. A lot of different managers in the equation. We spoke about Thomas Frank, De Zerbi, McKenna, and we ended up with the bold Italian. I think it's been a pretty good start. I think we've actually started to finally question one or two things in the past couple of games, which was bound to happen at some point. But, I mean, I'll just start off with you, Scott. What did you think about Maresca when he first come in, and what's your opinion on him now?
I think it's been about as much as I expected. Considering he's a student of Pep, he has a lot of the same things about him in terms of his stubbornness, I think especially, which I think is a good thing but has its weaknesses at times. It's been about as I expect from him. Only thing that's been not concerning but has been interesting is his use of some of the squad at times, especially in the league, which I assume we'll get on to talking a bit more later on. As I said, it's been about as what I expected in terms of where we are in the league. Again, it's about as I expect. I thought fourth, not third, but it's goal difference. So I think overall, since he's come in, it's been very good. I think it's been positive. But there are things to build on, as it was always going to be after the terrible season, regardless of where we finished last season.
100%. I mean, when we spoke to Leicester fans originally, I know you spoke to some Leicester fans as well, Charlie, we were told this is a guy who never changes anything. He's so stringent. It's just my way or the highway all the time. Now, I actually have to give Maresca a bit of credit. I think that he has changed a lot of things. I think his in-game management at times has been really good, the way he's adapted. But there has been a sort of a start of this, I don't know how to say it. We're starting to see that consistent lineup, those players that I think are going to become undroppable for Maresca, which if they perform, it's great. But if they don't perform, it's not so great. And, that starts off with the midfield. I don't think we're going to see Lava and Caicedo getting dropped this season. But, we spoke about inverting fullbacks, for example, and we've had Gusto doing it for a number of games. I personally don't think it's where Gusto's best suited, but that seems to be something that Maresca won't be changing anytime soon. I mean, do you think he's going to be tweaking his system at all, Charlie, or is he going to stick to what he's been doing?
No, I think he will make a few tweaks here and there, game dependent. I mean, obviously, when you got the Christmas period coming up, you're playing, every sort of 2 or 3 days. There's going to have to be some rotation to that Premier League 11. Right now, it has been pretty set. Give or take 1 or 2 positions. We pretty much know what Maresca's strongest team is, but we're going to see now that some of those guys that have been doing well in the Conference League are now going to start maybe getting a few more opportunities in the Premier League from the start, because we've got so many games coming up. You're simply going to have to rotate the players, and that's why we've got this squad and these options, so that we're able to do that, and the drop off in quality shouldn't be so big. So whilst, absolutely right now, it is a case of we've very much got our established first 11, and then you've got the Cup 11 at this point in time. But you're going to see a lot more of those guys coming into the Premier League team over the coming weeks as we build up to Christmas with the fixtures coming thick and fast. Yeah,
I mean, when I look at the team at the moment, I love what we're doing up top. I think the last season we were so reliant on Palmer. It was just Palmer all over. And I do think that other players are chipping, and although it's not every week with Madueke, and Mudryk is still not consistent, but he's more consistent than he was, and Neto in the fold, as well as Jackson, who I think's improved even from last year. That midfield as well is another area that I feel much more confident, but it's the defence that seems to be letting us down at the moment, and that's probably an area where we're going to be looking to invest. I've seen that we are actually speaking to our contacts, around the scouting network in terms of doing business in January regarding centre-backs specifically. I'm just, Charlie, do you remember when we were having this debate in the watch-along, and I was saying tossing 100%. He's got to start ahead of Fofana. But the thing is, there should be someone ahead of Fofana. That guy shouldn't be starting week in, week out. You can't trust a player who can't stay fit for a whole season and then expect the team to be built around that player. I think for me that just doesn't make any sense. If everyone's injury prone, what happens? Like, let's look at it like this: you're building your team around, let's just say, Fofana, Reece James. You've got Lavia in the midfield. You've got Neto up top. What if these guys these guys have a history of getting injured? So, although I could say with Neto he always performs, fair enough. All right, I'll give him a chance. Similar with Lavia, I think generally speaking he's consistent. Welcome to the chat, Ziad.
Welcome, everyone.
How are we doing? How are we doing? Go on, pull the mic close to you. You know, although we've got these players that have been injured, Reece James is a great example. But when they do play, they perform. I never felt like that with Fofana. I go, well, hang on a second. The guy's been injured, but then he's not even been that great when he's come back. He's been.
I think that's a bit unfair, mate. I
think that's unfair?
Yeah, I think that is a little bit unfair. I think he's actually been quite good this season. Against Arsenal, I thought he was very good. He even said it himself. He said that was probably his best game. And I said at the time, you know, when there was a lot of noise about, Tosin should be playing instead of him. Like, people need to realise what Tosin's level is, and it's not starting for Chelsea on a regular basis. It simply isn't. The guy's a squad player. He came in as a squad player. He came in as an opportunistic piece of business. If we had to pay money for him, we're never signing him. We signed him because he was free.
But that was good business, no? It was still good business. That was smart.
You say good business. I more say opportunistic business.
Well, it's an opportunity, isn't it?
It's an opportunity to bring a body in, but you don't have to pay any money for him. But I think we can all admit now that we missed an opportunity in the summer, and we should have signed a top quality centre back. Because you can have Colwell and Fofana as your first choice pairing, but the drop off to Tosin, Badia, Shield, Disasi is huge. You need someone that's is of a better quality than those guys that can put pressure on Cole, that can put pressure on Fofana to start. Because right now, let's be real, Tosin's not putting pressure on any of them. Neither's Disasi and neither's Badia Shield. No one's putting pressure on Fofana and Cole. So it doesn't matter how they perform. They're going to start in the Premier League pretty much every week. And you don't want players getting comfortable. We've got competition for places all over the pitch, right? We don't have it at centre-back. We missed a big trick.
No, we do.
We don't.
We do, but they just keep letting us down.
I disagree.
I think we have a level of competition. I agree in a sense what you said with Tosin, where I agree it was an opportunity. But the thing with the Tosin, it's an opportunity to make profit when we inevitably sell him, because it will be inevitably selling, because I agree. The issue I have with all of our centre-backs, and this is Colwell included, to a lesser extent, because I think he's been the best of the five. It's not hard, but he's been the best of the five so far this season. Colwell is the guy who is the leader at the back. He's the only one that seems to have leadership qualities about him. And he's 20, 21? Yeah. That's not acceptable. Tosin showed it in pre-season or showed it in the training videos I saw, and I've seen none of it since he started. He's played well in some games, but I've seen no leadership. Same with all the other centre-backs. My issue with the centre-backs is, for me, there's no discernible difference between any of them. Outside of like Badiashile, who's been terrible, I don't really think there's that much of a difference. Like, I can't sit here today and say Fofana's that much better than Tosin. I can't sit here today and say Cole's that much better than Fofana right now. And I think that's the issue, is they're all kind of at the moment, in this kind of middle ground where they're all a bit middling. I'd say Cole is the best of all of them, but I wouldn't say it's that much better. And that's why, for me, I agree. Whether it's January, I'd like it to be January, but whether it's January or the summer, someone of a level needs to come in. A Jonathan Tah type, a Bastoni type.
I've heard Bastoni's name a lot recently.
Someone of that ilk. Yeah. Someone who can come in and you're like, this is the guy. Then you can have a Fofana next to him who, fair enough, people thought he was good against Arsenal. I thought there were times when he looked like Zuma. Like, I'll be real, there's times he looks like he is just a guy with recovery pace who's not as good in the air. But you can have him making mistakes and it's all right. You can have Colwell next to him and he might have a game like Arsenal where he was an off day and he looks like he's having mistakes. It's all right because you've got someone next to him. When you've got two young guys next to each other and they both make mistakes, then you've got no hope. Like, I still think we'll make top four with them regardless, because I think the quality in the league this year is terrible. But if we're going to push on to be more than just what Arsenal were for years, which is top four contenders, then we need to have someone in that centre-back position that's more than just kind of okay, could become something great.
Yeah. I mean, but by the way, Charlie, I agree with you at the moment. Fofana is better than Tosin. It pains me to say it. But even against Noah, I thought he was crap. I thought Tosin was terrible in that game. And he scored a goal, but They could have scored 2 or 3. Noah, right at the beginning, he conceded some terrible opportunities. But like, we don't want to sit here slating our own players. But I think it's good to address what we're not happy with and where we can improve, and then we can.
We missed an opportunity. I think it's as simple as that. We missed an opportunity.
What, signing a centre back?
Yeah, we massively missed an
I agree
opportunity.
with that.
What's your take on it?
I don't see how you set another centre back and Fofana and Cole on the books. And Badiashile and the Sassy.
The reason I think we missed this trick, and I agree with Charlie, is because it put the pressure on Fofana after that. He missed the entire of last season, the entirety of last season with a serious injury. His 8th knee injury, I think it is. And he's
got pain in his knee now. He's just
in his left
withdrawn
knee.
from the
Yeah,
French,
that's potentially his
from the French
9th
squad.
knee injury. He's 22, I think, and he's had 9 now knee injuries. You can't put the pressure on him to come into this squad and immediately perform. And that's where I think we missed the trick. I think that we needed someone who was clearly better than Fofana to take the pressure off Fofana to then, if Fofana takes that guy's place in, a couple months, cool. But we've made it so Fofana has to come in and has to perform to a level which I don't think he has. Like outside of 1 or 2 games, I think he has been vastly underwhelming compared to A, what we paid, and B, what we expected from him.
I thought Tosin was that. I thought
Tosin was never
on a
that.
free. Tosin on a free, where everyone's like, yeah, that's it. He can come in and challenge Fofana.
Tosin's never been that.
But Tosin,
Really?
he is a Premier League proven player.
Yeah,
He
but let's
performed.
be real.
for-
Why are people saying Tosin's better than Chalobah?
He's not.
No,
he's
no,
not.
no,
Yeah, but I was hearing it in the summer.
I was hearing it as well.
So if you had Chalobah
Mate,
right
you
now,
can't stand with Tosin at the bar.
No. But what I'm saying is, if Chalobah was at the club, we all think he would have been good enough to at least challenge Fofana.
Right.
At least for the spot here and there. And people thought Tosin was better than Chalobah.
he's not though, is he?
Yeah, he's not though.
I think that's the. I think that's
It's not
the
like the
difference.
summer.
Yeah.
We're saying we missed
No.
it. I don't think we missed anything because Colwell ain't going nowhere. That's his spot. That is his spot. You can talk about Bastoni what you like. That is Colwell's spot forever.
Is Bastoni left side then?
Yeah, and left-footed as well.
I'd
so
get
you-
Bastoni and put Cole on as right centre back.
No,
I
I
just
prefer
think that-
having the. I like having the left and the
There
right.
does need. He's right though. There does need to be like someone that is putting pressure on these guys because let's be real, mate. Like Tosin's not that guy. I like him, right? He'll be a useful squad player. He's not. Tosin is not going to start on a regular basis for Chelsea in a team that wants to play in the Champions League, in a team that wants to eventually challenge for the title. He's not going to be a regular starter. The Sassy is not that guy. We all know that. And Badiashile, I feel, could be that guy, but for whatever reason, since his first 6 months at the club, his ability seems to have deserted him post injury at the end of that
He had
first
such
season.
a good game
I know.
when he come on against
But
Liverpool.
he did.
I thought maybe there's some hope.
No, there is still something. I do think there's still something there with him, but we're not in a position to sort of be waiting to see if that something might happen. So for me, what we really need, the Sassy needs to go. And there should be, Badiashile can stay, but there needs to be someone that is better than Tosin who is going to be able to put pressure on Fofana and Cole. Because right now, those guys, whether people agree or not, have got an easy ride in the team in terms of, it doesn't really matter what sort of level of performance they put in. That's going to be the partnership because the other guys aren't good enough and aren't stating a claim that they should be in the team. That's where we've missed the trick, is by not bringing in someone to put pressure on these guys. We don't have someone that's putting pressure on the centre-backs in the team.
I think we can all agree that the Sassy just doesn't suit the system.
I disagree with that, actually.
Oh, you
I
disagree with
think
that?
he is the one guy. I think he is the one guy I feel sorry for because you can tell he's not a right back. He's never.
But he's not good enough to be a centre
Oh,
back.
no, he is. Like he was as a central centre back. I think as a wide centre back, no. But I think as Cole's position, I think he is because I think last season he was actually decent. I think last season, as bad as our centre backs were,
it was different though under Poch. It was different because they weren't required to press. There wasn't the structure.
Yeah, but
I think there was less.
We defended
press.
a lot deeper as well.
Exactly, which I think benefited.
I
the Sassy.
agree, but I think with being the central centre back, I think he has less to do because I think we see with Colwell, like there are times when he steps out, but I think of the 3 centre backs when they play in possession, he is often the one that is it's normally Fofana that steps out or Kukurea or whoever. So I think that it could suit him playing central centre back. He's never going to get that opportunity. I'm well aware of that, but I think he is the one that I think could potentially offer a bit of competition, but I think it's just unfortunate for him. He's never going to be at the central centre back. He's always going to be a right back, and he's not a right back or a wide centre
Remember when I
back.
said to you after Bournemouth, right? I said to you, the Sassy is not. I made a bit of a bold claim. The Sassy's not going to play a single minute in the Premier League this season as a centre back.
Yeah,
and I still stand by that.
He's not.
He's just not.
Do you think the Sassy is better than Tosin?
I think he's as good.
I don't think there's much difference.
I think Badiashile's. I think Badiashile's right now is the worst of the bunch for a myriad of reasons. Not based on talent, but I think mentally this guy is gone. I think after last season he's ruined. I think he is, in terms of everything, the worst of the bunch, and he's the one I get rid of first.
But I think you said question whether they're going to play a minute in the Premier League. Does that come from the manager? Because is the manager the one that made these lot comfortable and saying no matter what you do, you're not going to get dropped? Because I see that in their attack. If I'm being honest, I see it in terms of Jackson or Madueke. No matter what they do, the following week they're starting, and I find a little problem with that. So even like maybe with Disasi, he hasn't really had a chance to show himself under Maresca in the Premier League as a centre back, only right back. Okay, Conference League, whatnot, but at least opportunities in the Premier League. If they're not performing, they still don't get the opportunity anyway. So Maresca, maybe he's stubborn in saying, look, no matter how you lot perform, no matter how you lot do, or good or bad, you're going to start. Even though at the start of the season he said, you have to perform to play in my team. Well, it's not really true, is it?
But can any of us really sit here and say, or any Chelsea fans going to sit here and say, that Disasi should be getting a chance in the Premier League at centre-back? No one's thinking that.
Also, he's fifth choice centre-back. And ultimately, even if Fofana gets an injury, it's Tosin that comes in. Yeah. It's not a case of Maresca sticking with guys who don't deserve to play. It's more of a case of hierarchy of position. He is fifth choice centre-back. So unless, for him to play centre-back in this team, it would take Tosin and Fofana getting injured.
But it's also interesting, though, defensively seems to be different, though. You can make changes in attack, right? And in midfield and whatnot. But one area of the pitch where you want continuity is your centre-back pairing. You know, it's not a place on the pitch where in game, you know, you might do a winger for a winger or midfield for midfield or whatever. You're not changing your centre-back in game unless they're having a howler or they're injured. Like that's the one place you want your continuity in the team. So the only way that you feel that these guys are going to get a chance to get in the team is either Colwell or Fofana have got to get injured, or they've got to go through a period of games, 4, 5, 6 games on the bounce where they're playing badly, they're making mistakes, they're costing their team goals and points or whatever, to then maybe see a change. So I understand to a degree why he sticks with them, because you want continuity in that position. We haven't had continuity in a centre-back pairing for a long time, but you also don't want to make rash changes at the back, off the back of maybe like 1 or 2 poor performances. I think it's different to other areas of the pitch. But look, I do get the point now in attack. I certainly think certain substitutions should be made earlier in games. Certain players shouldn't be deemed as undroppable. You know, everyone has to earn their place in the team. And maybe you know a few changes should be made here and there on a more regular basis.
Yeah, I mean let's go on to the attack then. Ziad, you brought it up. I mean, Madueke, Jackson, 2 players that you mentioned there. Are they undroppable at the moment?
Definitely not. In terms of Maresca's eyes, yeah. Not in terms of my eyes, and I think a lot of Chelsea fans, because Madueke, look, he's had that Wolves game. I think that probably saved his career. It's like, listen, the style of play, the way he plays, the type of winger he is, Maresca likes him. But I'm sorry, in the last recent games, there's no reason why he should be starting. I think right now he's quite lucky Sancho's out of the team, injured, because the Neto should be on the right and the Sancho should be on the left. Easy. Players like Jackson, okay, he's a better striker than Nkunku, you can say. But throughout the game, when he's not performing, why is he still on the pitch in the 80th minute, 85th minute? Are we expecting Nkunku to come on and do what in 5 minutes? Like, I think people actually forget how good of a player Nkunku actually is. And to bring him on with 4 or 5 minutes to go, when we can actually go and win the game, like Arsenal, like Man United, the game is there to be won, and you're giving him stupid minutes.
Do you think it's justified for Nkunku to be looking to leave in January? We know it's 100%. Not confirmed, but do you 100%. Think that it's actually a possibility?
100%, because he's a quality player. He's a quality player, and he shouldn't be on the bench. He doesn't deserve to be on the bench, especially when the person starting in front of him is not doing much. And especially, like, it's not even Jackson. You can say Palmer as well. The guy was clearly injured against Arsenal, clearly injured, and he wasn't being effective. Why can't we take him off? It's not illegal to take Cole Palmer off.
You don't think that was anything to do with his positioning? Because that's what a couple of people said to me after. They were saying he was further on the left. Maybe that had something to do with it. Man, because Gusto was coming up as well.
He's still picking up the pockets. I do think that, like, he shouldn't change. Some changes should be made earlier. Like, you can see that, for example, Jackson against Arsenal didn't have a great game. You know, we're looking for a goal. Maybe you want to change something through the middle of the pitch. Nkunku shouldn't be coming on for 2 minutes. 88th minute.
That's jokes.
That's actually ridiculous.
I think that's a slap in the face. It is bordering on disrespectful. It is.
It actually is.
What are you expecting a player of his quality to do in 2 minutes? Like, it's disrespectful. And that's one thing that I think with Maresca, I would look at some game management in certain situations and think, you can see that Jackson's is not working against Arsenal. He's not having a great game. Let's put something different up there. Give Nkunku 20 minutes. You know, we equalise, 70 minutes, maybe 75 minutes. Make the change, put something different up there. Nothing is going to happen in 2 minutes with Nkunku on the pitch. You might as well have left him on the bench. There's no point, because you're not going to do anything in a 2 minutes. So, and even the game away at United as well, Jackson I don't think he was poor, but he wasn't in the game at all because there was no service to him. It wasn't working. Nkunku, unused sub against United when you're chasing a winning goal. Why? I'm not saying that Nkunku should start ahead of Jackson, by the way, because I don't think I don't think he offers the same to the team as what Jackson does. But there should be games where I looked at Nkunku's stats the other night. The guy's not played more than 26 minutes in the Premier League since the Brighton game. All the other games, mate, the most he's played is about 10 minutes. So look,
he scores in all of them, except the Newcastle one.
No, he's scored one Premier League goal.
No, I'm talking about the cup games.
Oh, the cup games, yeah. He does, but look, I don't know
people
how much...
criticise him for, like,
No,
what's he supposed to do?
No,
Do you know what it is? I know he's playing Barrow, but I mean, if he doesn't score against Barrow, you say, well, he didn't score.
I'm not
he
saying
scored a hat-trick, and everyone goes, well, it's Barrow.
I mean, I'm not saying he should start ahead of Jackson right now, but what I'm saying is that he should be getting decent minutes from the bench, not poverty minutes.
It's not really competitive, is it? In that sense, I think that's the problem that people have. Is it looks like it's just favouritism, and if there's a real tactical approach behind that, which I'm sure there is, that's fair. But we're starting to get to this to that point in the season where Maresca makes a substitution, and I know what that substitution is going to be. I mean, I said in the Arsenal game, I said, you know what? You got to put Neto on the right. You got to take Matt away. I basically called it. The only thing that I didn't understand is why it took so long to bring Nkunku on. That didn't make any sense to me. But every now and again, just have a little play around. I think Jackson probably benefit from a little bit of a rest. Same with Madueke. Sometimes if players are off,
the key will be with these games coming up now, Christmas period approaching, when you're going to have to make changes. Let's see if Nkunku starts games. Let's see if Felix starts games. If these guys aren't starting games, then there's a lot more of a stronger conversation to be had about it. Right now, you don't really understand it, but let's wait and see until these Christmas matches where you've got games sort of every 2-3 days where you have to make those changes.
I'm going to preface what I say about some of these attackers, especially Nkunku, by saying I agree. I think he deserves more minutes off the bench. I think him coming on with 2 minutes plus injury time isn't good enough. However, I completely understand why he doesn't start. And I'll tell you why I understand, because even in those 2 minutes he comes on, there were a few times where Arsenal had the ball in the back line and there's no pressure. There's no movement. There's no nothing. He basically played like a target man. And I understand it's only a couple of minutes and he doesn't have a lot of time. But that's been, for me, the problem with Nkunku since the start of this season. When he's played, I've been severely underwhelmed. Even in the Cup, I think outside of Barrow, it's Barrow. What am I meant to take off a League Two team?
His job is to score goals.
No. I'm not talking about goals.
Even against Noah, he was poor.
I'll say I'm not talking about goals. I'm talking about all-round play, and that's the thing. That's the difference between him.
But look at Haaland. What does he do except score goals?
Yeah, I'm talking about the difference
ridiculous.
between Jackson and Nkunku, because Jackson scores goals and has an all-round game that benefits the team. Okay. And Nkunku scores goals where he plays terrible. Outside of a couple games, he has been I don't think he was particularly great in either Civet game. Again, I don't remember. I'll be honest. Panathinaikos, I thought he was not good. And Noah, he was terrible. I thought he was awful. I thought he was our worst player on the pitch.
So if a player can still score that many goals, irrespective of who it's against, playing badly, imagine what happens when he actually starts playing well, when he's given a bit of confidence.
It's the level of team. We saw against Newcastle. He played as bad against Newcastle as he did against Panathinaikos and did nothing. He was ineffective.
But Jackson you mentioned was last season, Jackson.
No, that's this Jackson. Jackson does the same thing this season.
Jackson's useless right now.
No, he's not. Against Arsenal. Even against Arsenal.
Against Arsenal.
He was good.
How many times did Neto put a great ball in?
Never.
Neto?
Never put a ball in while Jackson was there.
Yeah,
outside of the Gusto one, and this is the problem, and it was Palmer as well. This is the issue that is happening in the team, and that's that Jackson is not being found enough. It happened in United and it happening against Arsenal. And that's, I think, the issue with Jackson at the moment is not down to him, it's down to the service he's getting. I think we've seen, we saw with the goal he scored that was offside. I would bet my house now that Jackson scores on one-on-one. He has severely, vastly improved his one-on-one ability.
It's impressive,
levels.
Actually. It's really impressive.
And I'm happy for him. But this is the thing, and that's my issue with Nkunku, is the fact I think the reason he doesn't get as many minutes as he does, rightly or wrongly, is he doesn't do the stuff Jackson does in terms of off the ball, in terms of both in attacking and defending. His movement is non-existent. As I said, he doesn't really press at all, which is weird considering he came from a pressing team. The Red Bull system is all about pressing.
Was he a big part of that defensive structure though, or was he
I don't know,
purely a goal scorer in that team?
I don't know, but I know the Red Bull system from top to bottom across every team they own is about pressing.
Right.
Every team they own is about pressing. So you have to have some level of pressing ability to play in that team.
Well, why not take Palmer off? and putting
agree,
Nkunku there.
but
Palmer was the guy fell to the floor.
I
limping
100%
to his
agree.
car. Just take him off.
I agree. I think the problem with the Palmer thing is like he's the only person in this team who can create something out of nothing. Like the only person
I think
in this
Nkunku
team.
can in that position.
That's
I'm yet
why
to
he
be,
gets
I'm
left
yet to be
on.
convinced. Outside of doing it against Noah, where he should have scored anyway, that first goal, like the fact he didn't is the fact that the goalkeeper and the defender decided not to do anything. Like he doesn't create anything out of nothing. Outside the Bournemouth game. Outside the Bournemouth game, he has done nothing to show me that he can create something out of nothing. And Palmer's the only one who can do that. He's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
But the problem he's got is that he's not going to play ahead of Cole Palmer in a 10, right? His biggest issue right now is that even Maresca said it himself in one of the press conferences before one of the recent games, that Nkunku's not a 9, but he's having to play him there. So he's openly admitting that he knows that Nkunku's not a 9, but he's having to play him there. And I think the biggest issue was signing Joao Felix.
I was about to come to that.
Because why, like, you've Christopher Nkunku you've got, right? Why did we need Joao Felix? We didn't. I said all summer, we don't need this guy. We never wanted this guy. We signed him to get rid of Gallagher. Like, there is no...
But we also got rid of Sterling as well.
No, but there's no purpose to having Joao Felix. Now, look, he might be a talented boy, and maybe he's been signed to be a squad player, but, signing Joao Felix has basically meant that Christopher Nkunku is probably nearer to the exit door, and Nkunku, I'm sorry, is a more useful player and is better than Felix. So you look at Felix, right? We paid 45 million quid for him. The guy has been an unused sub in the last 4 Premier League games, right? What was the point in buying him? Because I'm struggling to see any point in signing him.
You have to remember though, Palmer gets injured. Their whole
You'd rather
perception
play
changes.
I'd rather play Nkunku.
Yeah, but then you still want the depth,
need
right?
someone.
You still need the depth.
This is what
I agree.
People
with
have
the
questioned
Felix
this,
thing.
and people have questioned what was the point of this amazing team A, amazing team B. Why did we sign all these quality players? I'm sorry, but the manager needs to use these players, and I think you make a good point in terms of Christmas time, and we actually have a lot of games because right now on Nkunku and Felix, you can get annoyed. But if you're not starters, you're not going to start because we're not playing a lot of games in terms of the Premier League. It's only once a week right now. But when you get to the busy period of twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever it is, and if you're still not playing, then Felix and Nkunku, you should go crazy. But my point is that, I'm sorry, when I just see attackers not performing, just use them. Use Felix, bring him on. You don't know what these guys are going to do in the Premier League. You don't know. Just give them an opportunity because they are quality players. But I just don't like the fact that you got quality players on the bench and you're not using them. Use them. At least give them a 15, 20. Even if Reece James got about 5 minutes.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Come on.
I don't know how good.
So it's clearly a pattern here. Even Reece James got basically no minutes. So
But do you think that was tactical or do you think that was load management?
I initially thought
think
that
it was
Gusto
tactical.
started. Like, I understand why Gusto started. I think it's tactical because of the whole centre back issue. I don't think it's load management. But when he came on for like that 8 minutes, he came on and was doing the same Gusto role. That's when I questioned it because he obviously sees that James can do the same role, which I think he can. I've thought that since the beginning of the season. But Gusto should have come off half time. I don't know how on earth he lasted till the 82nd minute. That was nuts. But yeah, just going back to the Felix thing quickly. I said this on the stream the other day and I'll maintain it. He's going to be the most pointless signing we've made this season. Like, completely.
Who?
Felix.
Oh, Felix.
I think he's going to be the most pointless signing we will have made this season ahead of anyone else because
I'm loving it.
Because he pushed a guy out of position who I think, as much as I've dissed on Nkunku and I expect way better, and I'm starting to question whether he is actually the player that we think he is, he moved him out of position to facilitate, which means we didn't go and get a 9, which you can clearly see that at times we are lacking. Because, for example, right, you look at the Arsenal game. As I said, Nkunku basically came on and was used like a glorified target man, which that's not really what his game is. That's when you could do with an Omorodion, a Wood, or whatever.
Why did the Omorodion deal just...
Apparently it was
the
injury.
whole thing was so weird because the whole deal was all agreed, right? And then it randomly falls through. But then he goes and signs for Porto, no issues in the medical, and he costs 15 mil less. So what's going on there?
I have no idea.
The whole situation surrounding it was weird because if you wanted Felix from the off, you would have just negotiated to sign Felix in the first place rather than Omorodion. So the whole thing don't add up. And I want Felix to do well. I want him to prove myself, others wrong, right? But right now I'm seeing nothing from Felix and nothing in the situation right now with his signing that is of any benefit to Chelsea whatsoever.
So if we were to, I want to do this, and then we'll move on to the midfield as well. We haven't spoken about Enzo, Caicedo, and Lavia that scenario, as well as Dewsbury Hall, a new signing. I mean, let's talk about the signings then that have come in. How do we think they've gone? So let's start off with let's Let's start off with Dewsbury Hall. Okay?
Second
How would we rank Dewsbury
second
Hall?
most pointless signing we will have made this summer.
It just didn't make sense, did it?
Yeah.
I like him, by the way, right? I actually think he's a half decent player, and he's obviously like a nice guy, or whatever.
Why are you laughing?
I think of a tweet I saw the other day.
It didn't make sense to sign him, because you've signed someone in a position which we didn't really need and isn't any better than what was already in that position and isn't good enough to put pressure on those players to get into that role. So we've basically spent 30 million on a player, right, which is not even making Premier League matchday squads.
Oh yeah, he didn't make the Arsenal squad, did he?
He hasn't made the Premier League matchday squad for the last sort of however many games. He's not making a squad anymore for the Prem.
So the tweet I saw the other day about Dewsbury Hall, someone tweeted, Dewsbury Hall is the most on loan to Everton signing we've ever made. Like, he's going on loan to Everton in a year or two. Like, he's like, when
He's actually a good player, I think.
He is a good player, but the problem is
It made no sense.
It made no sense.
But he's not better than Chukwuemeka.
I
He's
think
not
they're.
better
I
than
think
Chukwuemeka. That frustrates me.
I think he's better at some things. I think they're both good at different things. I think Chukwuemeka's
in
better
that
than
8 role, I would rather have Chukwuemeka. I think
I
I'm
think-
getting more goals. I think I've got better
He
technical
wouldn't get more
ability.
goals than Dewsbury.
No,
You think Chukwuemeka would get more
I don't
goals?
not
think he would.
potentially,
No,
but again,
no.
I
Oh, I
think
think so.
it depends. I think if you're looking for someone to drive with the ball in the midfield, Chukwuemeka's better. If you're looking for someone with the passing ability, not Enzo, Dewsbury Hall's better. So I think it depends what you're after. The issue becomes we've got Santos coming back, who should and will, in my opinion, be ahead of him. So he's already on the pecking order. And the big one for me is, I know he's going on loan for a season. The moment Kenji Paez comes into this team, that's his position he takes. Because he's played as a 10 for the club in
on the
Ecuador.
right side, though?
No, so he's played a few different positions for his team in Ecuador. The one he played quite a bit last season where he was so effective was either as a 10 or a left-sided 8 in a 3-man midfield.
Wow, I
which
didn't
is
know
where
that.
Dewsbury Hall plays.
Our team's actually stacked.
So that's what I'm saying. The moment Paez, for me, comes into this team, Dewsbury Hall's position in the team becomes a complete non-starter. And at that point, he will leave. So you've got him here for, like we said, 30 million potentially for 2 seasons. So far, I think he gets a tough ride this season. I don't think he's anywhere near as bad as people make out him to be.
I don't think he is bad.
But it's just, you've signed him for 2 years to do jack nothing to then try and make 30 million back on him.
You spent 30 million on a player to play him on a Thursday night in the Conference League. That's what's basically happened here, and that's not, that you do have to question the thinking behind that. Like, what was the thinking behind signing him? Because there's no rational thought process which signing Dewsbury Hall is actually of any benefit to Chelsea.
It's great in the short term. Long term, it makes no sense. Like, short term, it's a positive because I think he brings something to the Conference League team. But then long term, it's like, well, cool, he's going to leave.
If we're in the Champions League next season, if we are, right, then where are Dewsbury Hall's minutes coming? Because he's not going to play in the Champions League. He's not playing in the Premier League. Or he's going to be a Carabao Cup and an FA Cup player.
The Carabao Cup, mate.
It's nonsense, isn't
To
it?
be fair, we might be underestimating how many games we've got coming up, maybe, in the terms of the
No,
busy
but even
Christmas
so,
period.
he's
We're
fourth
gonna
choice
have a lot of
midfield.
games,
Like,
boys.
Yeah, but Caicedo, Enzo, Lavia, they can't play every single week.
I expect Caicedo to play basically every game he's fit
That's
for.
crazy.
The only ones I would drop Caicedo for is, like, say for example he gets 4 yellow cards right in the next couple of games. I would drop him for like Southampton because we've got Tottenham next after. I think.
Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
Tottenham away in space.
I think so. I drop him for Southampton purely so he doesn't get a yellow card in that game. So you play for Tottenham. That's the only time I'm dropping Caicedo. He's the best midfielder in the league.
Even when we got like 2 games.
I don't care.
Let's talk about Pedro Neto as well, who I think's been an absolute revelation. And to be fair, when he come in, the hype was already there. So we already felt, oh my goodness, this is a ready-made player. This is what we've been asking for. Ziad, I mean, do you feel like we've got what we expected to see from Neto, or did you expect less or more?
I didn't expect it to be early into the season. I think he's probably our best attacker right now. On form, best attacker. On the left, on the right, doesn't matter really where you play him. He didn't really get a lot of starts at the start. Sancho was, came in and was getting more minutes than him. Maybe he had a couple minutes off the bench. I think he even got hooked at half time against Bournemouth, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, he was,
Well,
Sancho.
Neto?
He definitely got hooked at one half time.
Yeah,
and one
Yeah, it was against Bournemouth.
He
Sancho
started,
come on for him,
he
yeah.
started that game and got hooked. So I think he had that unfair start. And, for that, to have that kind of start, but then come back in and take those opportunity, I think it's credit to him. Now it's just a case of, can he continue it? Hopefully he gets the starts. Is Sancho coming back from fitness? Is he all of a sudden Neto's on the bench? And because you're going to continue to start Madueke. But yeah, I think he's a serious player. Maresca needs to keep an eye on him because he should be our number one.
I just hope we can keep him fit.
I
It's
think
like that with every player,
I
though.
think we can keep him fit.
But you know what? If we have any, and this is not, people go, Alex, you're being pessimistic here. Look at the guy's record. They have serious. It's not just him. You've got Lavi, you've got Fofana. These players, there is a good chance if we play them as regularly as we have been, considering we won't rotate as much in the Prem and we'll just do it in the cup games, that if one of these players gets injured, it's going to be a real problem.
Well, I think he's managed them quite well. So
He
far.
has.
I think
He has absolutely. But my worry is that in the Premier League, when it comes to December, what are you going to do then?
Gonna have to make. There's going to be rotation.
Yeah, I think there's going to be rotation.
I think Dewsbury Hall. That's right. I think Dewsbury Hall. Right. The fact he's not made Premier League squads. I actually think in December, when we are playing every 2 or 3 days, he may well. I'm not saying he's going to come and start games, but he may well be on the bench and he will play sort of 20s and 25 minutes here and there. I know it's not like great or whatever, but that's one area of the pitch where you actually think about it. We do lack depth because let's say, right, God forbid, Caicedo gets injured. We've got a big problem.
Massive problem.
Because you play an Enzo Lavia, right? Okay, which all right, it's not awful, but then there's no changes to be made there. So,
we had a good Chukwu, didn't we? But he's now.
But he's at Southampton.
Not
He's
playing.
not even playing. He's on loan at Southampton. He's not even playing. Which is an odd one. Yeah, he doesn't play. Mate.
I thought he started well.
No, he
did start
literally
well, but he doesn't get in a team.
I
does
say
he?
he gets on the bench often, but he doesn't come off the bench. He came off the bench the other day or yesterday, whenever it was, against whoever they're playing. I can't remember. Wolves. That's it. But yeah, apart from that, he plays in the cup.
He
doesn't play.
He doesn't play much, which is mad. Like for a team that's so bad. Like
Call him back in January, man.
But you look at midfield and think that's the one area where there probably is a bit of a lack of depth. Like Andre Santos coming back next season will be big. I think he will play a huge part there. And it's going to be interesting to see how Maresca rotates that Lavia Caicedo pivot in the upcoming matches, because we all know that Lavia is probably. It's too much to ask for him to start 2 games in 3 days. So Enzo will come in and start games. I think it's interesting, right? Because obviously he likes the Lavia Caicedo thing right now. He probably prefers it, and that gives you a better balance probably, and it gives you more defensive stability. But with that pairing, you do sacrifice creativity. And for me, I don't think it's not a coincidence that the amount of chances and the amount of goals we're scoring since he put Lavia and Caicedo in the as a midfield pairing has dropped. With Enzo not in there, you are missing that creativity, which is why I think you're relying on the fullback to pick up that number 10 space to try and find that creativity that Enzo would be giving you in the middle of the park. So the trade-off is you get more defensive stability, maybe a better balance for the team, but you're sacrificing creativity. And for me, I don't think it's any surprise that we've created less chances and scored less goals with Enzo out the side.
So you don't think we'll be seeing any more games like Wolves or Brighton 6-2, 4-2, any of them?
Potentially.
You might see 1 or 2, but I do think those games may be outliers.
Potentially. I think we can. I agree with Charlie. I think we create less chances, but I think that's because then once Lavia comes into the team, the onus goes on other players. And I think that's the issue we're now seeing with, for example, you look at the Arsenal game, for example, the onus goes on Palmer, who was awful. He's lucky Gusto was on the pitch. Otherwise, I think he was our worst player outside of Gusto. Madueke, as much as I have liked him, and I still like some of the things he does, the one thing he hasn't got down yet is that final pass, final shot, whatever it is. And you saw that against Arsenal. And then Mudrik's the same, even though he's improved. The one thing he still hasn't got in his locker is that final pass, final ball. And so outside of Neto, there was nothing really. I know we created some chances, but outside of that, and then also Gusto being in that half space just offers nothing.
I think it's clear to see that when Enzo's not on the pitch and it's Lavia instead, Palmer plays a completely different role. I think he plays a completely different role. When you look at games that Enzo started against Brighton, for example, where Palmer was actually more advanced and he's allowed to go do something.
Palmer plays better when Enzo plays in the team.
I think so.
I don't know if he plays a different role, but I agree. I think he
plays.
Well, I mean, they work hand in hand, don't they? So
I don't think he plays a
makes
different
sense.
role. I think he's just asked to do more in terms of he has more of the ball. So then he
Deeper,
has.
though.
He's always picked up the ball deeper though. When he was with Enzo, the difference is that he could move into space and he could link with players easier. And then he was. I think the problem, especially we saw against United, and not necessarily United, just more Arsenal, is he just got a lot more. He was closed down by Partey a lot. He wasn't getting a lot of joy in terms of in space, and when he was in space, he wasn't really doing anything with it, which is unusual.
But that's where we need to. But that's where it's on Maresca to find different solutions in game. Right, if you can see that Palmer in that central role is being either man marked or doubled up on, and his influence is not there, then you need to find different solutions. If that means taking Madueke off, putting Palmer on the right and playing Nkunku on the 10, let's try something different to try and get something more out of Palmer. I think we've got to see some form of adaptability in the way that Palmer's used in game, if you can see that he's not being effective, let's put him on the right hand side.
I have nothing against that. I think that's a very good point.
Let's play Nkunku in the 10 and let's see if it just changes something, because there's no point just leaving Palmer on when he's not affecting the game, just leaving him in that central space, hoping that something might happen. Let's try something a little bit different.
I do think he plays much better.
With
Palmer
Enzo.
plays much better with Enzo Fernandez. And let's say with Maresca, look, you have your own style, that's fair. But I think you would be quite silly not to play Palmer on the right, or try it on the right and then play Nkunku in the 10.
I think the game against Arsenal proves a problem with that because of the performance of Neto. I think up until the Arsenal game, I would have agreed with
But you could play Neto on the left.
I thought he was better on the right, and that's the
He is
issue.
on the right, but
Up until the Arsenal game, I thought I agreed. Like, he was much better on the left. I think whenever he played on the right for us, even the Liverpool game, for example, comes on the left, and I thought he was excellent. Goes over to the right, and I think he was good, but not as near effective as he was on the left. The Arsenal game was where it changed. He was great on the left, but you saw when he went over to the right, he was able to do both the creating, because his delivery, by the way, I actually have to put that out there. After Reece, he has the next best delivery of anyone else in the squad. It's unreal.
It's crazy.
But also he has the ability to do what he did for the goal, where he can cut in. Like, he's able to do both.
But let's say you got to lose something to
No, I know, but I think this is
I think
this
it's
is
worth
where
playing shifting in Neto to the left is probably worth it to put Palmer on the right and try Nkunku in the 10, try that system. I think
the nice thing is you've got the balance still, because Palmer's not necessarily that pacey player, so you've still got that intricate.
Palmer's not going to play. It's not going to play as a direct winger.
Exactly. So he'll cut inside, and then you got Neto who will run down.
I will do that for the next game. Neto on the left, Palmer on the right, and Nkunku in the 10. And I think
For Leicester,
the way Palmer played, not an out-and-out right winger, even though I think he was borderline a touchline winger last season, very close to it. I think Maresca would be quite silly not to at least try it.
Yeah,
based on how he performed last season.
It needs to be. I think it needs to be tried.
100%. Especially when you got Nkunku.
Yeah.
Or Felix.
Or Felix.
Oh, get in the bin with Felix.
Felix is the player, man.
He sucks. No, I dislike Felix quite heavily.
He hasn't even had a chance.
No, he has. He has. That I'll be so honest, when it comes to this depth quickly, the Newcastle game in the Cup changed a lot of things for me. Like, changed a lot of things about this depth for me.
That's true, but you have also, it's one game. And you've got to remember as well, these guys who are second team players are also playing with the other ones who are, in my opinion, bums.
No, I agree, but when
so when you look at Jorgensen, and we're going to talk about the goalkeepers in a second, I think it's very difficult for a player like that when he's got Tosin, Disasi as a right back and Badiashile in front. It's very difficult as a goalkeeper, and it's the same obviously up the pitch as well.
I agree, but if you've got Nkunku and Felix on the pitch, at no point should Mudryk be your best attacker, in my mind, if they're as good as we think they are.
Fair enough. We'll let you see what you have to say in the comments. Let's talk about the goalkeeping situation. I mean, we brought
Ziad.
we brought Jorgensen in. I was certain he was going to be our first choice goalkeeper. I was absolutely certain. I remember the first game of the season, looking at the team sheet, Robert Sanchez. What is going on here? Now, in fairness to Sanchez, I actually thought he was quite good against City in the first game. I think he made some good saves, distribution, lots of question marks every game. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand how Sanchez is still our goalkeeper. We spent £25 million on a goalkeeper who couldn't even start for Brighton. He got dropped by De Zerbi.
It's a goalkeeper that makes a mistake in every single game he plays.
Mate.
Now, there's got to be more scrutiny on the decision to go into the season with him as a number one. There needs to be more spotlight shone on that, because that is a ridiculous decision. And I don't know who's responsible for that decision, if it's Maresca, if it's the goalkeeping coaches, if it's come from the club. I've got no idea. But Maresca doesn't strike me as a stupid person, right? But this Sanchez thing, every manager's got one player that they're very loyal to, or they're very stubborn about.
Why Robert Sanchez? You could have anyone.
I know, but with Maresca, it does seem to be Sanchez. Every single Chelsea fan could have told you last season, this guy's not good enough, right? And Chelsea need to upgrade in goal. You don't need to be intelligent to know that. So why the club have stuck with him, and secondly spent all this money on goalkeepers? We've bought in a high amount of goalkeepers over the past 2 or 3 windows, and yet we don't really have a single one that's actually good enough to be Chelsea's first choice number one.
We don't even know, because we haven't given Jorgensen a real chance.
We're the same position with Sanchez that we were last season, in the sense of with Petrovic. I rated Petrovic because
he was way better than Sanchez.
I watched MLS regularly. He was the best keeper in that league by a mile. But obviously, you don't know how that's going to translate to the Premier League. But I thought he was a good shot stopper, but I was like, we don't really know what he's going to be in the Premier League. So I was like, complete unknown. He can't be worse. It's the same with Jorgensen. Like, I don't think he's been that bad in the Conference League and in the Cup so far. But ultimately, like, we don't really know.
It doesn't tell you anything. We haven't found out anything
the level
about
of competition isn't the same.
We don't know anything. From those games that Jorgensen's played, we actually don't know anything. We haven't found out anything about him.
Because, like you said, he's been playing with, like, bozos in front of him, where it's like, you've got centre-backs. I know we've kind of got the same thing in the first 11, but it's not the same, where it's like, Badiashile and Tosin or Disasi making mistakes left, right, and centre. So he's ended up in positions where, excuse me, he's conceded goals, and it's like it's not always his fault. So you want to see how he does with the first 11, because he can't be worse. Because the thing with Sanchez as well is, like, I could understand him starting the season, because you could make the argument, and I know Ziad did, and he'll probably try and he'll say that with Poch's system, with how much of a complete mess it was Sanchez actually as bad as we saw? You could make that argument, and I don't think it's correct, but you could understand it. But we're now, 11 games into the league, and like Charlie says, he's making a mistake every game. There's no upside. He had that one game against Brighton, and the couple of saves against Forest. Outside of that, his shot stopping isn't even great. Like, the Martinelli goal, I don't know where to start with that.
But that's the problem. It's that Arsenal game is a great highlight of a lot of fans' concerns, because now you can't make the argument of, well, you know what, he's not good with his feet. Let's look at Nick Pope, for example, but he saves us week in, week out with his shot stopping. If Sanchez is making these mistakes on top of his distribution, that's double.
But the level of mistakes he's making, right, cancels out anything good that he does. Like, it replaces that. So for me, is what's ridiculous for me is, right, that all the money we spend on players, right, and we've got great depth and great quality in most areas of the pitch, right? How can it be that a club like Chelsea has not had a top-class goalkeeper since Courtois left? How?
I think that I think there's a multitude of reasons. I think
#, bring back Kepa.
No, bring back Courtois. But yeah, there's many reasons why that's the case, and that would take way too long to delve into that. But the thing with Sanchez for me is, like, I go back to the passing, though, because that was the thing with Kepa. Kepa was an awful, awful goalkeeper, but the one thing you could say about him as a positive was with the ball at his feet, especially long passing, he was good most of the time. Sanchez doesn't even have that. The stats after the Arsenal game, 3 out of 15 or 3 out of 16 long passes completed. I think after either United or the game beforehand, it was 6 out of 25.
But that Newcastle game at home in the league, pretty much every pass just went out of play.
Yeah, it must have been the Newcastle game. Like, that's the thing with Sanchez is, like, the one thing I thought we were getting, because he made these mistakes at Brighton. The one thing I thought we were getting is a goalkeeper who now has to play with the ball at his feet. He doesn't. His short passing is horrible. It's not even that it's horrible. His decision making on the ball gives me, like, it makes my heart skip a beat every time he gets the ball. His long passing sucks. And now he's not even making saves in games all the time, where it's like he's just making mistakes. There's no upside to him as a goalkeeper. He's the worst goalkeeper we've ever had.
But the problem we've got is that it's not even like he's improving.
He's 27 years old,
no,
Charlie.
He's 26. I think he's 25.
Okay,
he's 26. He turns 27 this season.
But you look at players players in the squad have improved since the start of the season, right? There's quite a few of them that have improved.
I'd say most of them have.
Most of them have improved, right? Sanchez hasn't improved in anything whatsoever. He's not improved at all. He's arguably gotten worse.
Yeah.
And this is a guy that, think how it feels playing in front of a goalkeeper, right? Knowing that he's going to make a mistake. Like, for us sitting in the crowd or watching it on the TV, it's not pleasant watching, knowing that you're just waiting for your keeper to make a mistake. Think how it feels for those defenders in front of him, knowing this guy's going to let the team down at some point in this game. And that's the position that we're in with Sanchez right now. And look, it's not going to be addressed in January, but it absolutely has to be addressed in the summer, because Chelsea are not going to win anything major or be a serious team until we sign a top-class goalkeeper. And that means going out, spending money on a top-class keeper, and it means getting rid of Sanchez. It's as simple as that. Otherwise, this team is not going to progress. You've got a ceiling on how much you can achieve with someone like Robert Sanchez in goal. You can finish 4th, and you can maybe you can win a Conference League or whatever. You're not doing much more than that.
I wouldn't even trust Sanchez in the Conference League final.
Okay, let's relax.
I wouldn't even trust him.
If
you're in a final with that guy...
No. But I always thought the problem with Sanchez is that people are always unfair with him. And it starts from last season. Because I think last season he was better than people made out. Okay, because I thought he made some quality saves last season. And even this season, I think he saved us at moments, and he's made quality saves at moments.
He has.
But he's an idiot, because the Arsenal game, the Man United game, and even Anfield...
He tried to throw the Brighton game away for us.
The Brighton game I give you, I think that he's just playing against Brighton, old team. I think he was lost that game. But I think the games against Liverpool, Man United, and Arsenal, big games.
3 big errors.
I think you could argue he basically cost us at least a draw in every single one of those games, or win against Arsenal and Man United.
So you're telling me that he's already cost us 6 points this season,
Listen,
and we've only played 11 games?
I agree, but at the same time, I think he lets himself down because he makes a lot of quality saves. I'm thinking of the Forest one in the last minute. You know,
It's true.
There's a lot of games
Bournemouth
this season.
as well. He had a great
Bournemouth,
game.
he had there's games this season where he's made very, very good saves. But which I think you'll get you top 4. But if you want to go higher, he's not the man. As much as I just feel people have disrespected him a little bit too much. I don't think they give him enough credit. But I think these last few weeks, he's let himself down way too much. And you can't really back that. Let's be real. Man United, you know, we could have easily walked away with a win. Anfield would have been a draw if it wasn't for him. And then Arsenal, you know, I'm sorry, man. You shouldn't be conceding that. And I'm sorry, like, if you see the size of this guy, if you go to a game, the guy he is very tall.
I think he's 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah, but he is he's a tall guy. And he just doesn't, if you come out, just use your body, you don't concede that. And as much as I like to back him, he has cost us in big games. And if it wasn't for him, we'd probably been higher on the table.
I'm very patient with all managers. I was obviously quite patient. I quite like Poch. I know you didn't necessarily feel that. I think me and Charlie, we both...
I didn't mind him, yeah.
I think we were in this... And then you two, you hated him, didn't you?
Poch.
You were in the Lewis camp, which is fine, right? We'll agree to disagree on that. And I like Maresca as well. But my stance on this is very simple. If Robert Sanchez continues to play and we don't achieve what we need to achieve, for me, that's on the manager, and I start having a serious problem with Maresca. I'm not saying he should get sacked, but I'm saying it's sackable if he continues to play a player who, if you just said, has cost us 2 points in those 3 games, that's 6 points. We're only a third through the season. You're telling me it could potentially cost us 18 points this season. Yeah. Now, that's absolutely massive. And that is not something, that's not even tactical. It's just common sense. Mm-hmm. Like, we're looking at the way this team plays and we go, actually, you know what? And I agree with you with this one, Poch. You couldn't see that identity under Pochettino that you have under Maresca. I know he had a slightly different set of circumstances, but Maresca has got this team playing a certain way. And if one small thing is going to make such a big difference, that is not good enough in my eyes. So
I think
it will change. I just don't know how quickly it's going to take.
I think we're also in a similar situation to other areas of the pitch, right, where the competition isn't actually that strong to Sanchez. Like it's not. But we can all sit here and,
let me ask you this,
we can
Charlie.
all sit here and say that Jorgensen we think should get an opportunity. Right. But what we're saying, can we really, like, from Maresca's point of view, you can maybe understand, has he seen anything from Jorgensen to suggest that he's knocking on the door?
Do you think Bettinelli would have made the same mistakes this season that Robert Sanchez has made? Bettinelli, our third choice goalkeeper. I don't think so.
Potentially. The difference
I'm not
between
joking.
the difference between the two
mistakes,
positions.
so that's the problem.
That's
true.
true.
I'm sorry. How would you concede that against Martinelli?
Yeah,
that is ridiculous.
Bettinelli would have saved. I'm not joking, mate. You could be in League 2 and you could save that.
He's just so slow off his line.
Yeah, I think the difference between the two, like the other guys, so like your Madueke's, Gusto's and whatnot, and Enzo before he dropped him, and Sanchez, is with the other positions, you've got a known quantity. Like, you've got a James behind Gusto, you've got a, even though we know he's not the best player, Mudryk has performed so far, and when he's fit, Sancho is a better player than Madueke, for example. You've got, as much as I don't think he's been great, you've got an Nkunku right back up. Jorgensen's a complete unknown. Like, he can't be worse. That's the thing, is he can't physically be worse.
I don't see him conceding that goal.
No,
he can't be worse.
He can't be worse, true. But I suppose Maresca might look at it and think, I'm not defending him here, by the way, just thinking what he might be thinking is, does he think that he might not be any worse, but if you're going to make a change, he needs to be better? Does Maresca probably thinks that this guy maybe right now isn't going to be better than Sanchez?
It's difficult for Jorgensen as well, because if he would have had a great game against Newcastle, when we went to St James's, we could all make the argument, he's performing really well.
It is difficult though, isn't it, as a goalkeeper, right? Because when you're Jorgensen, you're trying to put pressure on Sanchez. The games that Jorgensen's played, right? 2 games against Servette, 1 against Barrow, 1 against Ghent, 1 against Noah, and then Panathinaikos and Newcastle in the Cup, right? So he's played 7 games in all comps this season. realistically, he's played one game against a good level of opposition, and that game at Newcastle in the Cup, he was actually really bad.
He was good. He was very good against Panathinaikos.
But what I mean is, we haven't. What I'm saying is though, like he made one good save against Panathinaikos right at the start to keep us in it. Right. But what I'm saying is, in the majority of the games that he's played, right, we've not found out anything about him. But in those Conference League and them League Cup games, we haven't really found out anything about him. The one game where you're looking at it, Newcastle away in the Cup, which is against probably the best level of opposition he's played, he was terrible. So that's probably counting against him in Maresca's eyes potentially. But on the flip side, though, you're never going to know if this guy's good enough until you give him a chance. What does he need to do against this level of opposition to prove that he should have a chance? Because I could argue that really, if he plays well against the Shamrock Rovers, he plays well against Heidenheim, well against Astana, and Sanchez keeps doing how he's doing, that's not going to probably be enough difference to get him into the team.
I think based off Marissa's comments, I don't see Sanchez being dropped unless he gets injured.
Over the whole course of the season.
Last season he got injured,
and that's why he got injured. Then didn't play, then came back for one game, and then got dropped for the next game, and then got injured again.
So Petrovic, literally, when Sanchez was back fit again, he didn't get his place back. So, look.
But my point is, he played
Petrovic
one game. Got the chance.
Well, Sanchez was injured,
Well, I was going to say, he got one game back after he got injured against Leicester, and was that bad that he then got dropped for the next game.
But this is the thing, like, you don't wish injuries on anyone, but like, at this point in time, that looks like it's the only way that Jorgensen's going to get in the team.
Yeah.
I mean, listen.
Maresca's a man of his word. It's like
hopefully
good and bad.
Hopefully it doesn't cost us. I don't think it will, but like it is one of those things.
I don't think it will cost us top 4 over the course of the season, but it's a problem.
It's annoying.
Because it's not. He doesn't look like he's improving. That's the big issue.
Yeah. We've got just over a minute left, guys. What's your thoughts? If you were to say the season as a whole, just in a couple of words, are you happy, not so happy? Ziad, I'll start with you.
It's been okay. I think that's the best way. Anyone that says it's been a brilliant season, I'll say you're lying. Anyone that says it's been terrible, I'll say you're lying as well. I mean, it's been okay. You've seen some mistakes. I think you look at where we expected us to be at the start of the season. We're going in the right direction. But I also think there's a lot of teams around us that are doing terribly, which is probably why we're sitting where we are in the Premier League. Because I'm pretty sure it's like, 1 win in 5?
Yeah, it's one win in 5. Yeah.
So overall, I think it's been okay. Some criticism from Maresca, but at the same time, we're on target for our goal, so you can't really complain.
Yeah, no, I'm reasonably happy. Need a statement win still, but yeah, we're sitting third. Table's tight. This run now after the international break, pretty much to the end of January, is a lot more favourable. It's now time to put some serious points on the board and consolidate that place in the top 4.
Yeah, I agree. I think so far it's been a success. I'm slightly more positive about the season than Ziad is. And I think what I'm liking is the performances of some players. You Caicedo, I said, best midfielder in the league this season. Cucurella has been unreal, arguably best left back in the league. I think Jackson has been positive. And yeah, I think it can only continue, and I hope it continues. As we said, though, just need a statement win. Some like that Tottenham game, for example, like that needs to be an annihilation. Like that needs to be a good performance.
If it's anything like last season, we're going to be very happy. But yeah, I mean, I'm in the same camp. I think, to be honest, we've got to be relatively positive. I would have liked to have taken the Carabao Cup more seriously. Yeah. But if that means we can progress in other competitions, including the FA Cup, then I think we can live with that. But overall, if I was going to rate the season out of 10, I'd probably give it an 8 because I actually expected a lot worse.
I'd be about 7 or 8 as well.
So, I feel slightly surprised how well we've been doing, but I'm here for it. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Check out Omely, the sponsors. There is a QR code on screen. Download Omely. Myself and the rest of the panel will be doing a few chats on there throughout the season. Download it. There's a link in the description as well. All the best, guys, and we will catch up very, very soon.